10 things I wish I would have known about the path of the priestess, or the path of the medicine woman, or the path of the tantrika, energy healer, yogi, dakini, any sort of term that we are associating with bringing like higher truth or more grace or more light or more love through ourselves and into our daily lives, into our families, into our work in the world. This is really when I was at the very start of my path. I wish someone would have told me these 10 things. Probably would have saved me a lot of heartache. I also gave this speech. I don't know if it's a speech, but I gave it to our graduating class of priestesses just this weekend, and I thought I would come here and share it with you for this week's podcast episode. All right, here we go. Top 10 tips. Number 1, we like to think that our spiritual life can be different than our daily life. It is an absolute falsity. Everything influences everything. Every cell in your body talks to every other cell in your body. That same principle is true for your life, right? When you're scrolling through social media and you're leaving nasty comments, that influences later on when you're trying to channel some high level spiritual something for something. It's just what is. And we don't like it and we don't want to believe it's true. But if you really, really lean into that mystical law, I mean, we are talking about mysticism here essentially, and you lean into that mystical law of as above, so below. As above, so below. So that's happening in my body, right? That's happening in my body. We know that that's happening in the cosmos. Everything is influencing everything. We're becoming much more aware of it through science these days, but it's also to really take that into our daily lives and go, the way that I treat my partner totally influences the way that I treat my community. The way that I talk to my mom from a wounded place totally influences the way that I talk to myself when I'm not really paying attention, or the way that I talk to my child, right? So that's just something to bear in mind and to really feel into potentially where we think we're able to keep it separate, where we think, well, I'll just be an asshole over here, but over here, I'm gonna put on my robes, I'm gonna put on my, whatever angel halo, I'm gonna hold my, wand. And here is where I'm really going to be, a high level, high voltage priestess. It's not the case. It's really not the case. Becoming a high level, high voltage priestess, one of the greatest things that you can do to just really ramp that up. And I'm not even saying you associate with priestess at all, right? But whatever it is that you feel yourself stepping into around more of a spiritual path or a spiritual gifting out in the world or a love and light path, and like, how do you want more grace? How to get more grace and more mystical energy, sacred energy to flow through you in everything that you do. This is one of the big ones. Right? That's one of the big ones. All right. I don't want to dive into these too much. I would love to hear which one lights up the most for you in the comments though. So maybe just stay tuned as we're going through these next 9 for like which one really, really lights you up. And you're like, oh, maybe it was like fire to the face in that one. I want to know the fire to the face one. All right. So let's go on. Soul esteemed. This is huge, 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 huge. The only way that we will ever be able to come into higher and higher purity, listen to the calls, answer the calls, right? Whether that be a call in the moment, put your hand on that person. Say this, right? Or a greater call, a bigger sacred calling, right? Like build this church, like things like that. It doesn't matter the size of the calling. One thing that is absolutely required is to be able to be esteemed from that place and trust that part of yourself that receives those sacred callings beyond everything else around you. Right? So get this. You ready for this part? I think this landed really deeply in the conversation over the weekend. Was we are learning to trust a part of ourselves that the rest of the world doesn't trust. Let's take it one step further. You're learning to trust a part of yourself, like your sacred soul esteemed intuition, your sacred guidance system, your mystical guiding light. We're learning to trust this whole system, right? When the rest of the world doesn't even believe that system exists. Isn't that powerful? Like, that's stamina. That's esteemed. That's soul esteemed. I am esteemed from somewhere deep inside of myself, and building that muscle, developing that strength, that courage, right? That deep relationship with that place within you, and strengthening that whole system. We all have that system. Every single human being has that system. But it's putting our attention on it, and it's working with it consciously. It's listening to it, and it's trusting it, and it's following it, and it's taking action from that place. That's what builds that muscle the greatest. It's like practicing. It's like riding a bicycle, right? You could read about it until you're blue in the face, but until you actually ride the bicycle, you're not riding the bicycle. Like, you get good at riding a bicycle when you ride the bicycle. It's the same thing here. You get good at following that and reading and listening to that intuitive guidance, that sacred soul mission system that's operating in you, and it gets louder and stronger when you ride the bike, right? Okay, let's move on. Number 3, here's an interesting one. Every time you judge someone or something, you're limiting the flow of love. You're essentially saying, I don't want to open my heart to you, which is in direct correlation to the amount of love and the amount of light that can move through you into that event, that person, that situation. So the moment we judge something, right? The moment we judge it, the moment we say, that's not worthy of my light, my love, my grace, that's the moment we stop the flow. And isn't that interesting? Think about all the things you judge. What about political party? Do you judge people of a different political party? Do you judge people who have a different belief system, a different religion, a different tradition than you? Where do you judge? Where every place that we're judging, we're limiting the flow of love and of grace and of light. That's a lifelong practice, right? All right. Here's another one. This is number 4, is when we step onto this path, right? The path of this light worker, let's just say, as a general term, right? We don't associate with all of these terms, but we'll just say light worker. I might swap that out with priestess. As we step onto this path, the purity comes through when we step onto this path to give something, not get something. Right? You become a tantrika when you are really genuinely, from the deepest place within yourself, giving something, not getting something. And it's tricky because we're sneaky about this. I have a little story that I'll share with you. I studied to be an energy healer. This was at the very start of my journey. And by the way, I never anticipated founding ReWilding at all. I never anticipated ever becoming a spiritual teacher. I was a scientist. I was going to medical school, right? If you couldn't prove it in a lab, it didn't exist for me. And then the weirdo stuff started happening. And so I started studying things to try to figure out what was happening to me. Right? As a scientist, right? I'm like, well, I'm just going to take myself to the laboratory and try to figure out what's going on. So anyways, in one of my studies to figure out what was going on, I went into energy healing. And it was like a 2-year course or 18-month course. I can't remember. But I'm in this course and I'm feeling really proud, stuff's happening. I'm like, yeah, I'm an energy healer. This is great. And I think that I'm wanting to give something. Right? I'm wanting to give something. I'm wanting to get. I'm really feeling and thinking, I genuinely want to do something nice. And I go home. I was studying this in Australia. I go home back to Wisconsin, to the US, and I'm with my mom. And I'm like, Mom, let me heal you, right? Let me put my hands on you. Let me do some of this energy healing. And my mom, she's a great sport. So she's up on the kitchen counter, I'm like, oh, this will do. She's up on the kitchen counter and I'm trying to balance her chakras, right? So I'm doing this thing and she's got one eye open, she's staring at me. She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, can you feel anything? How you doing? I had her stomach was gurgling a little bit. I was super, super proud. And the big profound things that were happening in the class that I was studying were not happening with my mom. Right. There's many reasons for this, but they just were not happening. The stuff that I had seen, the seemingly miraculous stuff that was going on in this course was not happening on the kitchen counter with my mom. And I come to realize, my intention behind it was that I wanted to get something. I wanted to get validation. I wasn't there from the deepest, most genuine, I am just a channel for love and light, and whatever it is that serves this moment, may that happen. I wasn't coming from that place. I was coming from the place of trying to prove myself that it's okay that I didn't become a medical doctor, Mom. It's okay that I'm studying mysticism and shamanic practices and tantra and energy healing, and I'm becoming a meditation teacher. It's okay, Mom. Like, I will prove myself to you. Do you see what I'm saying? And how many of those things are sitting there that we don't necessarily know? And so one of the greatest things about this path, one of the greatest things that will open up the amount of grace that can move through you, the amount of magic that can happen, the amount of miracles that can happen, is to really work to get to that deep, 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 deep place of I am doing this to genuinely just be a channel for grace. I have no attachment to the outcome. I have zero agenda here. I don't care. So this leads to another point of mine. Where is this one? Do I have it on here? Here we go. Yeah. We'll bounce over to this one. So this could be number 5. Is I love this point, and I'm gonna refer to it as like dangerous elder, we'll say. We won't say dangerous old woman. People don't like that word. Old, and they don't like the word woman, right? I know some of us do, right? All the controversy. So we're just gonna say dangerous elder, right? You know those like wizened beings where you're in your elder state and you were just a fucking wisdom keeper. Think about those people. There's not many of them. Most people die before they ever get to that like wizened elder stage, right? But feel into someone you know in your life who's like wizened elder. They're just wizened elder. And there's this edge that they have where they give no fucks, right? Like, they don't care about the consequences. They don't need their mom's good opinion of them for being an energy healer. They don't need, right? They don't need your acceptance. The people pleaser is gone. The needing validation from external sources is gone. See that? So I'm going to call that one like the dangerous elder, because you have the edge. You've grown through the need for an outcome, the need, the caring about the consequences. I need to prove myself. I need this to look good. I need, I don't want you to look down upon me. That's like caring about the consequences, right? I don't want you to judge me. You don't care. Wizened elders don't care. You just don't care. You don't care. That's a really powerful one. It's a really powerful one to let go of the outcome, what you think is the greatest mystical outcome. So this we're going to dive into as point number, what are we on? 6. Point number 6. You have no idea what the divine knows. I have no idea what the divine knows, right? I do not have mystic mind. I do not have divine mind. I am not connected to the interconnectedness of the all of everything and not flowing through my mind to make sense of anything at all, ever. I have no idea of God's plan. I have no idea of the goddess's plan. I don't know. And if I do catch a tiny little glimpse, that is like a drop in the ocean. It is a drop in the ocean. And so to come to this from this place of, I really turn it over to trust something greater. I really have no attachment to the outcome because I don't know what it looks like to be in the highest. I don't know what the highest outcome is. I don't know what that looks like. All I can do is go moment to 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 moment, coming from that deep place of integrity, right? That deep place of integrity of like, let me give, let me be this hollow bone, let me be this channel for grace, let me be your hands in the world, let me be your voice in the world, right? I don't know what's coming out of my mouth in that moment to serve exactly that moment to the highest degree that I possibly can. That is some training right there. Super quick, I do I'm not doing any of these long-term priestess trainings right now. I've done 2 of them. They've been amazing. They were 18-month programs. I'm not doing any of those, but I am doing 5-day in-person priestess training retreats. And there's one happening in California. So depending on when you're watching this, our Ibiza one is full. Don't know if we're ever doing another one there in Ibiza. We're getting lots of questions about that. But there are a few spots left in the California retreat that's happening in February of 2025, end of February of 2025. So if this is like vibrating with you or singing to you and you're like, how do I become a hollow bone? Like, what are these, these channels that you're talking about, this intuitive, how do I more deeply listen to that sacred calling, Sabrina? And I think also part of what we do on these retreats is just activate more sacred energy within us and then give us the tools to be able to channel more, to be able to get out of the way. I mean, a lot of this that I'm talking about is getting out of the way, getting our ego selves out of the way, getting our shadow, the unseen. We don't know, I didn't know that I was really serving an ego part of myself when I was trying to heal my mom on the kitchen counter. And so it's revealing more of that hidden blocks that are getting in our way that we don't know we're blocking the light. We don't know we're blocking the love. But when we move some of that stuff out of the, oh my gosh, it's profound what happens. I did a 45-minute video on that journey and just the path of the priestess. And that might bring you something. So if you're like, wow, I would love more, just go watch that video. I mean, really and truly, you don't have to sign up for a retreat if it doesn't, I don't want you to sign up for a retreat if it doesn't resonate with you. But maybe that video will bring you something. It kind of goes into the pillars of priestessing and it will give you some more information. So you'll find the link just below if that video sings to you. I would say go dive into that next. Really and truly, I think it will bring you something. I really do. It goes through the pillars, and I think those pillars can illuminate more for your path. All right, let's keep going with this. So I think that was number 6. This one stinks, right? This is number 7. This one's like fire to the face. You ready for it? We talk about the path of the priestess or the light worker as an it's an empowering path. We want to stand in our power, right? You are essentially channeling power from a very humble, very hollow bone, very let my little self not get in the way of this. Let me be your hands in the world. Let me be your voice in the world, right? It's a very surrendered state of just let love, light, and grace move through me in the way that most serves. And I don't need to know how that is. I don't need, right? But just let it happen. Let it happen. Let it happen. Let me become it. Let me become it. And so that's a very empowering path. It's a very empowering path to be taking. Now, here's something that I want to share with us is looking at all of the places where we give away our power. Looking at all of the places where we dim our light, dull our shine, right? Give away our power. This is interesting, this thread, so bear with me for a second. Every time you blame someone or something else for your choices, you're leaking. You're leaking in your co-creative capacities with the divine. So being a priest is being a light worker. You're a co-creator with the divine. If you just think about it like that, you're a co-creator with the divine. So the moment you say, I'm a victim to fate, I'm a victim to this circumstance, this is happening to me, I had no role in it. That's the moment you give up your co-creator with the divine power. You give up your priestess role, you give up your light worker role because you are no longer co-creating with the divine, right? And that's what this path is. It is you becoming an ever greater and greater and greater co-creator with grace, with divinity, with the divine, however you with spirit, however you define divinity, God, goddess, Shiva, Shakti, whatever, love, light, however you term that. The moment we play victim to fate, the moment we say it's your fault, or this just happened to me, we've given up our co-creative. We've given up our co-creative role. Isn't that wild? And so watching where you do that, when you do that, and stopping immediately. Done. I am an adult and I am taking full responsibility for my life. I am taking full responsibility for every action, every word that comes out of my mouth, every choice that I make, every single one of them. Can you feel that? Yeah, I know. I told you, a little fire to the face. All right, let's keep going here. All right, we're on to number 8. Let me just see. I'm going to shift this around a tiny little bit. And I'm going to go with my number 9 and not my number 8, which you don't care anyways. All right. So number 8 is oftentimes we get stuck in like old thinking, even though our systems have changed. Those of us walking this path, right? We are becoming more sensitive. We are becoming more empathic. It's just the law of this path, right? It's the law of this path. We also are becoming more influenced by energetics. We're becoming more aware and more conscious of energetics. So we sometimes think that like drinking veggie juice and eating the right diet is more important than the energy management, right? So it's like, I will sometimes think, okay, the hummus I ate that wasn't organic, right? Oh my gosh, that's gonna like wreck my system. More than the news that I watched for an hour. And I'm just saying the news, right? Or the really crappy television show that I watched for an hour. I'm going to go off an old system. This is most of us in many ways, right? Where it's like the 5D physical senses. If I can see it, touch it, taste it, smell it, right? It's like in the physical world, that's affecting me more so than the energy world. And that's something you want to turn on its head. Something we need to turn on its head when we walk this path is really honoring the intensity of energetics, the intensity of emotions, other people's emotional bodies, the intensity of the energy of a sacred site, a non-sacred site. What is the energetics that are moving into your psychic space, that are moving into beyond just your psychic space, into your body, into your emotional field, and how do you manage that? What is your psychic hygiene? What is your energy hygiene? What is your daily practice to just cleanse all the psychic free radicals that are glomming on? The more light you shine, this is just kind of a principle that many people will say, I don't say you have to agree with this, but the more light that you shine, often the more dark you're called to walk into. Light workers aren't just called to like hang out with light workers. We like hang out with light workers to figure out how to support each other in this and how to go to the next level in all of this and to learn from each other and to nurture each other, right? And to just cheer each other the fuck on, because this path is not an easy path, right? Again, if you're like, that's me, where do I go? And you maybe want to come on a 5-day retreat in California. Again, check out that link or whatever the offerings are at the time you're watching this video, if that sings to you. But really feeling into this shift in how we take care of ourselves, The self-care, and we always talk about this a lot on retreats, the self-care that a priestess needs is different. The self-care I need now is very different to the self-care I needed when I was a scientist. Vastly, wildly, ridiculously different. And it's things that I'm not able to read about in like nutrition books and exercise manuals and things that are in the 5D physical. So really want to put that on our radars and just honor that. Like a lot of times we start to feel it, but we get like overwhelmed by energy, or we get so tired, or we get so knocked out, and we just haven't necessarily learned how to take care of ourselves, what that spiritual self-care is that we now need. All right, so moving on. This is another little bit of a fire to the face. It's fire to the face. But that's this path. I mean, walking this path, it is a sacred fire that is going to burn, right? That's this path. It's the nature of this path. It's beautiful. So here's one that's a little bit of fire to the face. This is a path that's earned. It's a role in society that's earned. It is earned. It is earned. Some of us will come in and we have natural wiring, we have natural affinities, we have gifts. Some of us have that. Some of us don't. Some of us do not. So I really want to honor everyone's unique individual karma and dharma on this path. But no matter what you came in with or did not come in with, it is an earned path. It is earned. And it's like the crushing of the grapes to make fine wine. It is an earned path. So I really want to say that, because some of us think like, well, I should have just gotten like hit with the mystic stick or the priestess stick and then like, boom, magically it's all good. Nope. 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 It is a humbling path, not humbling as in belittling path, but it is a humbling as in I will strip you of your ego so that you can channel pure, higher levels of love and light out into the world. Right? I will show you your shadow and where you're manipulating things that you don't even know you're manipulating things. It's like that. It's an earned path. It is earned. It is earned. And honoring that, like thank goodness we don't have incredibly powerful people running around with a bunch of sacred juice ripping through them, that they haven't earned it, that they haven't been put to the test, that they haven't been put to the fire, that they haven't been stripped. So, all right, just honoring that, like, yes. I'll add this too. It is a forever evolving role. So it's not just that it's earned. Once you make it. There is no place to get to. We're going to go with 11 points, I think, because I think this is the point in itself, is there is no end point. There is no piece of paper. There is no piece of paper for a priestess path. There is no piece of paper for the path of the light worker. Like, you ain't getting the graduating certificate and suddenly, like, you're a lawyer. Now you passed the bar exam, you got all your shit, you can go do the thing in the world. It's not like that. It's not like that. It's not like that. Jesus didn't get a piece of paper. No one said, hey, Jesus, you can now go put your hands on people. Hey, Jesus, you are now like a really great channel for grace. Like, you got it. Here's your graduating piece of paper. There is no end point. We are constantly evolving. We are constantly growing into it. We are constantly refining. We are constantly, right? Human consciousness is constantly growing. It's never stopping. If human consciousness is constantly growing, your consciousness is constantly growing. Your capacities to channel love, light, grace is constantly growing and constantly increasing. So there's no place to get to. We just keep walking the path and keep like getting crushed for grapes and trying to give the finest wine that we possibly can on this path, right? All right. I think this point number 10 kind of flows back to an earlier point, but I think that this is worth repeating. So maybe there are really only 10 points here. This is like 10B, just to circle back. Every thought you have influences the love, the light that's moving through you at the moment. Every action you take, every choice you make on where you spend your time, what you do for these 5 minutes, what you're thinking about, what you're writing about, how you're talking to someone, all of that. We are constantly, here, this is the part I want to share. We are constantly co-creating. We are always, forever dancing with this light, this love, and this grace. We are always engaged in the mystical laws. Always. You are always. It's not like, and now I'm going to put my priestess hat on, and now I'm not. You are always engaged. You are always engaging with these mystical laws. Always, 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 always engaging with these mystical laws. There's a word that I've been sitting with a lot lately, and it's congruency. Congruency in my life, congruency in my words, congruency in my thoughts, congruency. I can modulate. If you don't know what modulating is like, I modulate, I bring the light, the love, the grace, and I can modulate it to the person, to the situation, to the place in the way that most serves, so that it can be received. Like the level of grace, love, light, and the words and how it comes through in a 5-day priestess training retreat, let's say the California retreat, it's going to be very different, right? Then I'm still tapped into the same amount of juice, but I'm having a conversation with my partner. It's very different. I modulate my partner's a welder, right? I don't need him to come to the level of where we go in a priestess training retreat for me to bring the love, the light, the grace through. I can still bring as much love, light, grace to that conversation, talking about the weather, talking about something. I can modulate. This is really key to learn. Here's my point number 11. Learn modulation and do not be attached and do not make the world come to you to meet that flame, that fire, that sacred energy as it moves through you. You learn, and we'll do this a lot, because this is a skill that can be developed, that can be developed. is to let that love, that light, that grace flow in a way that most serves this moment, this person, this situation, right? You just be whatever it is, right? And sometimes it might be movement, sometimes it might be a word, sometimes it might be choosing different words, right? Sometimes it might, you just don't know. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. You just develop that wiring for it. Okay, my goodness, I've loved being here with you. I would love to hear in the comments below, 1 through 11, which one really resonated with you, which one like really got you, which one was like, that was my aha moment. Would love to hear that. I'm always in the comments the first couple days after a video goes out. My team is then always in the so we'd love to just witness. Would love to witness you on your path, and would love to invite you to go watch that Priestess video, that 45-minute video. There will be a link below. It'll say like California retreat information. Just click that link. It takes you right to the video, right? That video is like front and center on that event page, and it just could bring you something to your path. Go check out the 4 pillars. There's the 4 pillars, and it's been very powerful, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback on that. All right. I love being here with you all. Thank you so much for everything that you bring to ReWilding. Have the most amazing day.